it's another by the numbers for week 6. Dan and Ken, how you guys doing?
Life's good, Josh.
Doing great.
All right. I got a number for you. Number is 5. It's the number of dollars I lost because I screwed up the shipping on our film study store with the new products this week.
Oh, no.
So whoever ordered the mug, thank you for ordering the mug. Enjoy the mug. I paid for the shipping for the mug. So it was fun to see the little, you earned -$5. And I'm like, what? So it has been corrected now. So enjoy the mug. I think it's going out. It's going out to the West Coast somewhere from what I
Very
remember.
good. Glad to hear someone who's interested in getting one.
Yep. So, all right, guys, you guys have more important numbers in regards to the Ravens. So why don't we jump right into those?
Let's get right to it. Dan, you're up number 1.
Sounds good. 37-1. Since 2018, Calais Campbell has started 37 out of 37 games, while the rest of the D-line on the roster in Week 5 had only one start combined, and that was from Ellis, one game in 2018. Washington and Matabuke haven't had any starts yet. In fact, they've only played 165 snaps between the three of them so far in 2020. So a really inexperienced, at least lately, defensive line besides Calais Campbell. And there were some issues during the game, but overall, I really thought it was a very strong showing and a lot of promise for the young guys.
Very happy that the Ravens got to a point where the score dictated that Philadelphia stopped running the football because they were actually very effective at that. I thought, obviously 18 for 194, pretty damn effective. But yeah, it did not strike confidence in me when the inactives came out that they did not call up Aaron Crawford would have been the option as a fifth defensive lineman, and they instead went with 3 green guys and Campbell, which is that's quite a stretch. I got another one, a similar vein. 165 and 5.1, 165 yards per game without Brandon Williams in the 7 games he's missed since 2016, 5.1 yards per carry over the same period. And if you really look at the 16 to 19 period, they had Michael Pierce to step in for that. They had a legitimate backup nose tackle. They didn't have much. Ellis is a nose tackle, and that's his role, but to ask him to play the same number of snaps that would have been asked of Brandon Williams in games would have been a real stretch for him. So I actually think he had some trouble on Sunday. He definitely got pancaked on the 74-yard run plus fumble, recovered for the touchdown, yada yada, in the middle of that game.
Yeah, it's really we were kind of fortunate to have them face the Eagles. If you're going to have Brandon Williams out, they had O-line issues, and they just don't have the roster to have a lot of big formations. So if you had to miss him, it was a good game to miss him on. So, all right, next number, -13.01. That's the EPA, expected points added, for the 12 Ravens penalties. And again, negative is obviously bad for expected points added. Basically, it means that the penalties could be expected to have cost the Ravens 13 points from the scoreboard. Just for comparison, Ravens have averaged -4.6 EPA on only 5 penalties per game in the first 5 games. So a really rough outing as far as penalties, and in really strong, meaningful times. 13 points impacted, basically.
Yeah, it was a lot of drive stalling penalties, and that's what my next is about: 6, 9, and 4. But the Ravens in this game had 6 drive stalling penalties. Now, a drive stalling penalty is defined as a penalty that occurs when you don't get a subsequent first down or touchdown on that series of plays. So you can get a false start early on and you get a first down after. It doesn't matter that the drive peters out later. That's not a drive stalling penalty. It's a drive stalling penalty if you don't subsequently get a first down or touchdown. So it's 6 drive stalling penalties on Sunday, 9 so far in 2020. And that number really looks bad, obviously, relative to the others this year, but they had 4 all of 2019 total and 6 on Sunday. So that's bad. I will say this, they are somewhat exaggerated by the fact that you can get more than 1 on a drive, and the real negative drive the Ravens had, they had 3 stalled penalties all within a single series of downs. They had 2 on another and 1 on a third, but they also had 2 declined penalties, which effectively came at the cost of other drives. So it's not always just the stalled drives on the accepted penalties. It's also the cost of those declined penalties, which is probably captured in your previous number about the number of points lost.
Yeah, and man, did the momentum change on that one series where there were 3 penalties. That kind of
Mhm.
really shifted everything. Everything was going great up until then. Uh, Next number 10, 84, 145, and 129. Those were the yards gained by the Eagles by quarter. As I was just talking about, the Ravens defense started off fantastic with only 10 yards allowed in the first quarter, but they just couldn't finish off the game for a number of reasons. Um, allowing teams to get back into the games is definitely a concern when they start facing more difficult competition. So
Yeah, the Eagles did it with a bunch of big plays coming back in this game. In some ways, I'm a little less concerned about that. I thought that the DPI penalty was really ticky tack. That was obviously an enormous play. They got off. Wentz made an incredible throw into the end zone, and Fulgham made a great jump for it to somehow deny 2 defenders on the 18-yard touchdown on 4th and 9. If the Ravens had lost this game, there'd be an awful lot to talk about what went wrong for the Ravens, what went unlucky for the Ravens in this game. But it's certainly not a good thing in terms of the way the yardage ran out by quarter. And this was not the typical Ravens formula of being able to squelch the opponent when they're down. All right, move on to another one. 1,848. That is the number of days since Pernell McPhee had consecutive games with 7 total quarterback hits. The last time that occurred was week 3, well, it's actually week 2 and 3 of 2015 in his very initial games with the Bears. He was a hell of a player, by the way, in 2015. Was a hell of a player, as we remember, here in Baltimore in 2014. But the last 2 games, he's really just stepped out of 2014 onto the field and been the kind of dominant force he was at that point. I think he's helping everyone along the line. I don't think Campbell is doing it all on his own, although Campbell's pretty special. McPhee and his violent hands and being able to beat 1 defender or 2 right now is being something really special that we haven't seen in a while from him.
yeah, and you also see on a lot of plays where he doesn't directly get at the quarterback, he influences the offensive line, allowing them to free up some other D linemen. So I just hope he can stay healthy and keep it going for the rest of the season. So all right, 37. It's the number of seconds that the Ravens were able to run off the clock between the last 2 touchdowns for the Eagles. So this was on the second to last offensive possession for them. They got the ball with under 4 minutes left, and they were up by 8 points. In 2019, these type of drives were the Ravens' bread and butter, but they were only able to use up 37 seconds, and it's definitely something that they need to shore up in order to finish off close games in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Run for 1, run for 5, but with a holding call that negated that. A run for 10 with the second time out, and then an incomplete pass. And, being put in the position of 3rd and 9 where you had to throw an incomplete pass was what they were really trying to avoid. Not that that necessarily would have gotten them to the end of the game, but it might have put the game basically out of reach had they gotten a first down from that position from, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2 kind of thing. But yeah, again, 37 seconds, obviously unacceptable in that situation. I'll go with my next number is 7. That's the number of stunts run by the Ravens against the Eagles, and those are twists or stunts along the defensive line. Those plays resulted in 6 quarterback hits and a pressure on the 7th play. Now, unfortunately, the 7th play that was a pressure also happened to be the 18-yard touchdown pass on 4th and 9. But nonetheless, the defensive line was really getting the job done. Campbell, in particular, is driving a lot of this with his underneath stunt skills, meaning he crosses the face first, makes the contact with 2 defenders. He can do perfectly well as an underplayer once one of them releases, and in fact, he got a sack -11 on a similar play. There was actually a blitz from level 2 where Jamon Brown peeled off, but also he had a great partnership that seems to be building with Bowser on the outside, where on consecutive snaps they got a quarterback hit and a pressure supporting each other's twist play. One on the under and on one play, and another on the under the next. And I love to see that kind of thing. I think Campbell and Bowser playing together look like a real good team.
Yeah, that's great. It's awesome to hear that they can get the pressure by stunts and maybe limit a few of the blitzes and keep the numbers in the back. So, all right. Last number for me is 54% and 35%. Looking ahead, that's the Steelers' pass rush win rate and the run stop win rate from ESPN Next Gen Stats. So that's a heck of a defensive line. That's second overall in pass rush win rate and first overall in run stop win rate.
35% is the highest rate of run stop wins in the entire league this year.
Yep.
Wow, that doesn't seem very high.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. So for comparison, the Ravens have a pass rush win rate of 46%, which is ninth best, and a run stop win rate of 30%, which is 18th best. So they must be real tight. It's between
Right.
35 and 30. So, but the pass rush win rate is based on how often a pass rusher is able to beat his block within 2.5 seconds, and a run stop win rate it can be earned by beating the blocker, pushing the blocker backwards, adjusting the run lane, or tackling a running back within 3 yards. So looking forward, the Ravens really have their work cut out for them against the Steelers' D line, and luckily they've got an extra week to kind of plan and adjust.
Yeah, I hope that week off will help them. All right, last numbers 101 and 29. 101 consecutive halves with a score for the Ravens. That's the NFL record. The last miss, we're not going to like these, was a scoreless first half against the Steelers on 10-1-17 in Baltimore. The 29 is the number of consecutive games of 20-plus points. That is one shy of Denver's NFL record of 30. The last miss was 11-4-18 against the Steelers in Baltimore. The world has kind of gone crazy here with the Ravens holding NFL scoring records. Dan, you and I both grew up with the early 2000 Ravens, certainly, and this just isn't the way the world worked. Things are very different. But I think the Steelers are going to be a very tough test for them a week from Sunday in terms of being able to keep those streaks going.
Yeah, definitely hope to keep them going and that the Steelers don't sandwich those records. So.
All right, another great show here. Thanks for doing this with me, Dan, and we'll talk to you next time on Film Study.